Welcome back to Macrodosing, the only podcast available on the internet. You can find other podcasts on the radio. You can find them on television, but you cannot find any others on the internet except for this one. Thank you for tuning in. Big episode today. We're going to go down some deep, dark rabbit holes. It's Cult Week, baby. Cult Week 2020. I'm just going to start referring to this year's 2020 like the Olympics are doing.
Dude, this cult stuff was pretty dark. I must say, like, going down a lot of this, like, I was more like, you know, when you think about cults, really when you think about cults, you don't think of anything good.
I think that we should talk a little bit about some, cults have to be pretty exciting and happy until they get broken up, until they go to that bridge too far. Like, I'm sure that in all the weird sex cults, like Polyphonic Spree made some great music before they achieved cult status. There's cults like, it would be fun to be in a cult. I think Creed Bratton said it best, right? Like, it's more fun to be a member of the cult than it is to be the leader, but you make more money as a leader. There's some cults out there right now that are still churning and probably fun to be in.
I'm technically a leader of a cult. It's kind of disbanded recently.
The Berserker Blood Gang?
Yeah, the Berserker Blood Cult. It was a cool idea, I thought, but then, you know, life got in the way and I couldn't lead the cult anymore.
Life got in the way?
Yeah.
What does life getting in the way look like for you?
Like, I donated blood too quickly and I passed out once and then I had to train for a fight.
So death got in the way, not life got in the way.
Just giving too much blood.
Yeah. But if you do want to donate blood, we did start a second Berserker Blood Cult. I think me and Big Cat started. Me and Big Cat started the Berserker Blood Cult. So if you're thinking about donating life, give somebody the gift of life, donate blood, do it for us Berserkers.
Still donate blood.
Still donate blood. Cults they're fascinating to me. Just brainwashing in general is always exciting to me. But before we get into that, a couple housekeeping notes here. Coley's not in. Coley had life got in the way for Coley today. He's got some family stuff that he's got going on, so he is not here. Arian is dealing with technical issues out of his hotel room. Basically, they don't want you to hear Arian. I think we're getting too close to the sun and somebody's fucking with its transmission. So thoughts and prayers to Arian. Stay away from the deep state if they're after Arian. Keep your head above water. Arian actually said, the last text that he sent to us before we started this podcast was, I have information that will lead to the arrest and execution of Hillary Clinton. And so now his internet connection is not working. Just kind of a fun deal to toss in there. So yeah, hopefully he'll join us in a little bit. But if not, we're just going to keep powering on through this. We do have Mad Dog here. We got Big T. We've got Avery. We've got Arian in spirit and Coley in spirit today. And obviously there's Billy on PFT. So what do you guys want to get into first today? Because I feel like we should maybe at least talk about the text that we got from Big T over the weekend.
Okay, that's an unfair way to characterize it off the jump. I just shared some screenshots of a thing. I had no opinion on it one way or the other. There were a couple screenies.
You were just passing along
I was just passing along things I saw.
Some screenies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what did these screenies say?
I will read them verbatim. Let me find them.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was from... So this is from February 28, 2019. Alex Jones and Joe Rogan war leads to conspiracy theory meltdown. InfoWars host says babies harvested for organs. Then the other day, here's a headline from Fox News. Millions in federal money flowed to tissue bank that collected, quote, fetal hearts, gonads, legs, and brain at the University of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, explain the connection there.
Again, I was just passing along.
You were just sharing some screenies about fetal gonads.
Correct.
As one does.
I have no thoughts on the matter. I was just passing things along that I saw.
So when I read that, and I'm familiar with Alex Jones's takes on things that go into medicine and things that go into vaccines and how basically, according to Alex, you're injecting dead babies into yourself anytime you take any number of medications from Big Pharma. And so then... I'm trying to figure out an eloquent way to explain what stem cells are to Big T, because I think that's what Alex Jones is getting at, where there's stem cells used for all sorts of research and to like regenerate body parts and organs and used in all sorts of treatments for sicknesses. You could make the argument like, yes, the stem cells were part of a living thing at some point. I don't think that's the same as like, You're getting close to with the adrenochrome stuff, where you just like crack open a baby's like neck, drink their blood, and that's why people in Hollywood are hot.
You're saying you a lot.
Or sorry, you're screeny.
I have nothing. I literally don't have any thoughts on this at all. Like, it sounds like I'm joking. I'm not.
Okay.
I don't care. I thought it was an interesting thing to pass along, though, because you are interested in Alex Jones.
I am interested in Alex Jones.
As of our first episode of Macrodosing on Alex Jones said, I remember his first rant regarding all of that, and he also mentioned half human, half frog hybrids in laboratories in England and like a bunch of other crazy stuff. So once Alex Jones has once again cast a very, very wide net of an assertion, and part of it has came true, as we saw with the Epstein stuff and other stuff. So, that's what I think the point is to prove here. But remember, in that very same rant, he was talking about human chimera hybrids, which are like half animals, and, maybe that's also true. We just don't know yet. That might be kind of cool to hang out with some human-animal hybrids.
You're just thinking about fucking a half frog.
No, maybe just like...
Maybe just getting a hand job from her.
No.
You know that you've considered, like, if you stumbled onto the set of The Shape of Water and you didn't know that it was a movie set, you probably would have been seduced by the fish.
Well, the fish seduced many people.
Right. It was really good at seducing. I'm not saying that's an indictment on you. I'm just saying, like, if you were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
It would be cool to meet a human-animal hybrid, talk to them about their experiences. I mean, have any of you been to, like, you go to the state fairs and, like, they have those, like, tents and it's, like, half woman, half dragon.
The freak shows?
Yeah.
You talking about, do they still do the freak shows?
Honestly, I saw a miniature pony that was the world's smallest... Yeah, which happens at many.
Uh-huh.
But what they do is they put you on a platform and you look down so the pony looks smaller.
It's an old trick.
Old carny trick. Anyway, I was with my mom and I honestly was too scared to go into the half lady, half snake or half dragon tent because I honestly got social anxiety because I was like, well, what if I have to talk to this lady? Mm-hmm. I was like 7. I was like what am I gonna say? And my mom was just like, we could go. I was like, no, like I was just like a toddler.
If we're pointing fingers, I just want to say this only came up today because Billy walked in here and he's like, so Alex Jones was right.
It's true.
No, well, in a way, like he said in a very inflammatory way than organ donation, which is a great thing. It saves people's lives. Like,
to be fair to Billy, also that's how he greets us on most days. It's just like, hey, Alex Jones, right again, nailed it. You're right. He casts a very wide net. So, just Big T, next time that your favorite athlete comes back in like 8 months from a torn ACL, you should accuse that person of like harvesting baby organs and having them injected in their knees, getting stem cell treatment. Like, by that logic, RG3 has performed personally like 7 million abortions and injected them all into his patellar tendons and ACLs. Okay. Which I'm not saying he hasn't. I'm just saying that by that logic, even he has.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, good to have you back. Good to have everybody back. We're going to have a fact off, I think, at some point today.
I'm retired.
Between Billy and Big T. I think we need to make that a weekly segment on this show.
I'm retired.
Just a quick fact off. If you, Mad Dog and Avery, if you guys were to get some sort of like half animal hybrid, what would you want put into your body?
So it's like my body and I'm just adding an animal to it?
Yeah, let Billy actually define the parameters of...
A chimera, in many regards, we've actually seen...
Is that what it's called, as a chimera?
Well, some sort of animal-human hybrid or animal-animal hybrid. It's actually in classical mythology. I'm a big fan.
I just immediately saw Billy turn into the Winnie the Pooh meme where he puts on the tuxedo and the top hat. A hybrid and mini...
No, they're doing it all the time. Like, they've actually been doing a lot of genetic engineering. And, like, for example, they grew a human ear on a rat recently, and they just injected it with, they grew the skin cells and whatever, a lot like the fake meat we were talking about. And that was a human animal hybrid, like for real. They grew a person's ear on a rat. Also, they're doing other stuff like injecting jellyfish DNA into other fish, or even cats, I think, and make glow in the dark cats.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than stepping on a cat in the middle of the
Right.
night when they're sleeping.
Right. I think, that's a huge step in, like, cat innovation.
It is. So, yeah, what would you guys, if you were to become a chimera, what are you trying to get?
My mind immediately went to, like, either a dolphin or a shark, so you could, like, swim really fast. I don't know what that kind of like.
Mermaid. You want to be a mermaid?
Yeah, I want to be a mermaid. I think that'd be kind of sick.
Mermaid, one of the classic chimeras, hybrids.
Yeah. I think having the lung capacity of a dolphin would be incredible.
Yeah.
Being able to go underwater for such long distances.
And then like the jaw of a shark would be kind of cool. And like the fear factor that the shark holds. I think it'd be cool to be feared like that.
So I'm kind of thinking like realistically, if I were to become a chimera, because like if you got a jaw from a shark, no one would want to hang out with you.
Right.
Like you'd be a real buzzkill. Like you'd walk in a room, people would be like, this kind of weirds me out.
But also if I'm a mermaid, I can't walk. So that's the hard part.
And mermaids, they probably smell too.
Yeah.
Smell like the ocean. So that's why I thought went with something like internal, like the lung capacity thing.
Can you do that, or do I have to be like a centaur where it's like half, bottom half, and then top half?
What I would do, so actually chimera just refers to any hybrids of animals. What we're talking about right now is human chimeras, human animal hybrids. I would go with something that was like very low key and very discreet so that you could still interact with humans. I actually would go for maybe like some functional fish gills, like right behind the ears.
Or like what's the thing that bats have? The sonar.
Oh, echolocation?
Yeah.
There's actually blind people who develop that.
They can just scream at stuff?
Yeah, I saw there was this TV show called
Cap?
The Most Extreme. Yeah, no, it was this
We need
blind
Arian
person.
to determine if this was Cap or not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Their senses become so good that they develop it because
Yeah.
they can't see, so they need to adapt in other ways. I would say just wings. Like, who wouldn't want to be able to fly?
But
Yeah.
then you get the demon connotation, you know, with having wings. I'm actually thinking of the wrong type of wings. Angels have feathered wings.
Yeah.
That was like the biggest distinction between like angels and demons. Is
Well,
angels had feathered wings,
yeah.
and demons had the bat wings.
They got scaly wings,
Yeah.
more evil.
The brain has a way of repurposing unused real estate. When a sense like sight is missing, corresponding brain regions can adapt to process new input, including sound or touch. Now a study of blind people who use echolocation, making clicks with their mouths to judge the location of objects when sound bounces back, reveals a degree of repurposing never before documented. Now, I know that sounds crazy using echolocation and like how we as humans use that when like dolphins have huge parts of their brains just dedicated to that. So with bats, but if you like put your head near a wall and listen to sound like it does kind of sound different even with your like eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
What about the Doppler effect? You know, like when a fire engine comes down the street and you can hear it changing pitch as it gets closer to you and then as it gets further away. Do you think the human ear can eventually just hear people around them? Not even necessarily like the sounds that they're making, but like, is there a frequency that's always coming out of a human being at any given time that if you are walking past them, you get so tuned into their frequency, you can tell exactly how far, like you turn your body into its own radar system.
I could see that. I mean, when you're like sleeping in a room and someone walks in the room, no matter how quiet they are, you always sort of sense it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Unless you're Trent Richardson, that will never be able to tell if somebody is like right next to him. Like,
Also, I think it'd be kind of cool to have a kangaroo pouch.
yeah,
Yeah.
or a stinger.
Yeah.
Like if you had a stinger on your body somewhere and like only you knew where it was, like maybe your pinky finger.
I would want to hide something easy to hide. Just because the government would definitely come get you if you like were obviously chimera.
Yeah, retractable claws maybe.
Yeah, Wolverine.
Like Wolverine?
Style, yeah.
What about you, Big T?
I mean, I feel like it's the obvious answer, but like centaur, like that's the coolest.
You want a horse cock?
Wouldn't hurt. It's like a
Not you.
majestic, powerful creature. You'd be like some Narnia shit. Like that'd be cool. You could maybe be used in like a new kind of warfare. Like maybe the next war we go into, they're like, we gotta have the centaur.
Yeah, but then they're sending you the front lines. Like if you're
No,
the
I
only
feel
one-
like no, but you'd be so valuable that they'd make sure you're taken care of.
No, but remember the rule in war we talked about last time, where like you can't kill the horse.
That's true.
You wouldn't be the horse anymore, so they'd kill you. Like they'd chop your legs down.
I always feel like
what
when
do you
you
mean
get
anymore? I'm not a horse now.
There was like chivalry where you like weren't allowed to touch horses.
Right. No,
Like, in
but you're
battle.
saying I wouldn't be the horse anymore. I would be 50% more horse than I am right now.
Right, but since you'd lose your horse riding immunity.
Privileges.
I think that was like the whole thing about Braveheart. There was like, we're fighting the English, and then the Scottish were like, yeah, we're gonna kill your horses, and then no one was like, what? Like, you can't kill the horses?
Yeah, they didn't sign up for this. Hey, I saw the modern pentathlon. Those horses are just as responsible as all of us. Did you see that girl in the pentathlon?
Yeah, she sucks.
So the modern pentathlon, I became an expert on the sport over the course of the weekend. It's actually got a pretty sick background. So it's based off this soldier that existed, I think, in ancient Greek times, that got caught behind enemy lines, had to shoot his way out, steal a horse, ride the horse, then run. There was like a whole bunch of things that they had to do to get back to safety. Then they made a sport based off of that person's adventure. That became the modern pentathlon, where you have to do things like sprint, ride a horse. There's either archery or rifle shooting involved. And so that's what this girl was doing when she was competing. She had the biggest lead in the modern pentathlon. And then she got on a horse which was randomly assigned to her. Like, they have a stable of Olympic quality horses, and they give them out by random selection 20 minutes before the event. So you have 20 minutes to become friends with the horse and then make it jump over these obstacles. When this girl got into the ring, she was bawling her eyes out because she knew that she had a horse that did not fuck with her. This horse was not vibing with her whatsoever and would not do anything. So she got like all the faults possible and ended up losing the modern pentathlon, which she was going to get a gold medal. But it just came out today that the trainer and this girl's coach was helping her get acquainted with the horse in those 20 minutes. The horse was not cooperating as well as they thought it should be. And the coach just started punching the fucking horse in the face.
Jeez.
And then the horse gets out in the ring, and obviously he's like, I'm not going to jump for you. You were just beating the shit out of me backstage. Like, and so then the horse obviously did not cooperate, and she lost it. But I knew, like, watching it, hey, if you make part of your event meeting a horse and then training it and then riding it, sometimes you're going to get a horse that doesn't fuck with you.
That's basically, you have to be the ultimate horse girl.
Yeah.
Like, horse girl energy, like, that trainer was definitely a dude, right? Like,
I don't know.
Like, horse girl energy is like, you, like, I've seen it. Like, girls walk up to horses and they just vibe with horses immediately.
No. Germany's coach for the modern pentathlon, Kim Reisner, has been disqualified from the remainder of the Olympic Games after she, during competition, punching a horse and encouraging her athlete to do the same. So it was a woman.
Whoa.
You don't punch a horse.
So she was a shitty horse girl.
Apparently, yeah.
She probably has short hair.
No, I know like a bunch of girls who just can approach horses and the horses just automatically chill out and vibe with them.
What is that? Are you a horse girl, Mad Dog?
No, a horse shit on me when I was like 3, and I haven't come back from that.
The
since.
horse shit on you?
Yeah, like on my head, all over me.
There's like 1% of our listeners out there that are like, this is the fucking hottest episode of Macrodosing ever. How does that even happen? How do you get shit on by a horse as a 3-year-old? Was your mom punching it in the face?
No, it was my dad. I was on vacation in Hilton Head, in South Carolina, and my dad took me to see horses like in some stables or whatever. And I think my dad, I don't remember it, but I think my dad was trying to like take a picture with me and the horse, and I was like placed like and again, I'm a 3-year-old, I'm small. I was placed behind the horse's ass, and then it had like diarrhea on my on me. And then my dad was like unequipped for that kind of mess, so had like baby wipes and shit, and like tried to clean me up, and then brought me home or back to the hotel or whatever. And my mom was like, what happened? And then I haven't been close to horses since, so I don't think I have that energy.
Yeah.
But,
you know, I always was told never to stand behind a horse.
yeah, no, because you'll probably get shit on.
Or get kicked.
Or get kicked. Yeah, I could have died.
Yeah, that was the big one.
Yeah. No,
That was my first thought.
I was like actively placed behind the horse, so I don't mess with horses.
I think that was a galaxy brain move by your dad to be like, I really don't want Madeline to ask me to buy her a horse or to ride
In, like,
ponies
10
that's
years.
expensive. So I'm just going to traumatize her from a very young age by having a horse take a massive dookie on her head.
And it wasn't even like if you go like near Central Park where like all the horses are on the carriages or whatever, it wasn't like that. Like apparently it was like just actual diarrhea, like liquid shit all over me.
Jeez, yeah.
Tough look. For
Wait,
me,
was this
apparently.
horse? Where was this horse?
South Carolina.
Oh, okay, all right, never mind. I thought it was gonna be in Ohio.
You
thing.
also ate horse shit.
I did eat. I put horse shit in my mouth. I chewed and I immediately threw up and projectile vomit. But that was different. That's different, Avery. That was so that the Caps could win a Stanley Cup. And guess what? We did. It worked. So no regrets.
Honestly,
I'd do it for Rangers Cup.
All,
that's for sure.
Out of all shits, horse shit is probably the most not shit like.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you see it in Central Park, like
it's just grass.
It's just grass and like straw or hay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely some shit mixed in there too.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, right.
Their digestive system is.
Yeah.
Is that the worst like just thing in general you've ever done?
I don't think I've ever taken a bite of food and immediately thrown up before I even had a chance to try to swallow it before.
But just in terms of life in general, like have you done something that was less enjoyable than that?
No, probably not. That was well. Being in the middle of the fact off last week was it had its moments too. But no, I think eating horse shit is probably the grossest thing that I've done. Yeah, I can safely say that.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, like the shit to not shit ratio of horse shit is probably the lowest out of any shit. Like cows eat the same amount of just like grass and stuff, and their like cow patties are just shit.
What about fish shit? If they eat other fish, like a shark shit.
Huh.
Because I don't know if they probably don't chew that much, right?
Right. Actually, that'd probably be.
I think I would eat shark shit.
Shark shit would probably be cool.
I know that shrimp have shit. They've got that little vein that goes down the back.
Yeah. Yeah, actually lobster shit, the green stuff.
So I just looked up shark poop.
Yeah, I just watched a great white take a massive shit.
Yeah, it's more since it's in water, it's like it isn't, but it looks like almost a
dust.
Like
powder.
Cloud? Okay.
Yeah. But it was like the thing I'm getting is hilarious moment. Great white shark shits all over cage. So it's like green, like liquid.
Okay. I think that maybe. What do you think would be the animal with the grossest shit to eat? I think an underrated choice would be penguin.
Grossest?
Yeah, because they eat like nothing but
human.
They eat weird fish all day.
No, but human's the one with all the bacteria that can mess you up.
You think human has the nastiest shit?
It's probably the worst for you because it has all the bacteria. Like that's
Doesn't other things have bacteria? Like
right, but like the bacteria that would mess us up.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about like grossness wise in terms of taste, in terms of.
I feel like elephants.
Elephant shit. It's probably not a good one.
It's probably honestly I think it's probably close to cow. Like that sort of. Actually, no. I actually saw an elephant shit at the Bronx Zoo. It was disgusting.
It just falls out, right? It just like tumbles out of their back.
Yeah, and hippos.
Hippos bad shits too. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Rhinos.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
anything at the zoo.
I actually think that bears would have relatively clean shit to eat. They're just eating like berries and seeds. Berries, seeds, and like
actually,
clean salmon.
I've seen it. It just looks like super dark.
They call it scat.
Yeah.
I don't know why they call it bear scat.
Oh, you know what is like owl pellets? Like, do you remember? Did you have to like dissect those in like 5th grade?
Mm-hmm.
With bones.
And it just was bones.
Yeah.
And like
fuzzy. It's like hair.
Yeah.
Hair and bones.
So I feel like that would just be like tough because it's like crunchy.
Right, but as far as picking animal shit that you would have to eat goes, I'd actually say that's pretty high up because I can like choke down a dusty bone pellet more easily than I can eat shit.
It's also fur. It's just a fur ball.
It's a fur ball, right, with bones in it.
Yeah, with all like the mice.
It's essentially like what Buffalo Wild Wings has become now.
So I just looked it up. There's a huge discussion about human primate like chimeras of human primate embryos. And they're saying that they shouldn't legalize it because then they're going to make human chimpanzee hybrids and test on them because they're the closest things to humans that aren't humans, so they could legally do medical tests on them.
So now you're talking about the plot of Sorry to Bother You.
That's what it is?
Pretty much, yeah. That's a great movie.
What's it?
Written, directed by Boots Riley from the band, what was it, The Cringe?
Huh.
No, sorry, The Coup. The Coup was Boots Riley's band. And so it's a good movie. It's about a guy that gets a job in a call center and gets a bunch of promotions. But then that stuff kicks in that you were talking about.
Oh.
I actually just happened to come across this tweet from NPR. Did you see how they classified the trainer who punched the horse?
No.
A German coach was booted from the Tokyo Olympics after she lightly punched a reluctant horse that was refusing to ride during the equestrian portion of the modern pentathlon.
I think if you're punching a horse, we don't need to bring any adjectives into it. It's like this bitch punched a horse.
When is it okay to punch animals?
Good question, Billy.
When you're getting attacked by a shark.
Yeah, if the animal is trying to kill you.
That kangaroo video, the kangaroo that's hugging the hunting dog,
Yeah.
and then gets punched in the face.
If the animal is trying to kill you or your dog,
Okay.
at that point, I think it's fair game. Also, if you're Australian, you can just punch anything you want. That's how they say hello there.
Yeah, punching a horse is not a good look.
Not a good look. But good call on the horse girl. The horse girl energy. Gun girl has horse girl energy, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm. I feel like
Her hair does.
Yeah, her hair does, big time.
Oh, actually, not to give free ads, but mane and tail. That's when you see the girls who use mane and tail shampoo.
Mm-hmm.
It's horse shampoo. There's girls who use horse shampoo.
I've
in their
seen
hair.
that. Yeah.
I learned. I was like, what? It's like a thing.
Well, I've also heard that it's really good shampoo.
Yeah,
I'm considering making a switch to mane and tail.
actually.
I heard horses and shampoo, and it just makes me think of the Jackass skit where they had Johnny Knoxville using horse cum as shampoo for like a month. You ever see that?
No.
Yeah.
They kept mixing like horse cum into his shampoo.
Yeah.
And he was using it for an entire month, and then they showed it to him in like a movie theater.
I need to go back and watch all the Jackasses.
Yeah, there's a new one coming
to
out.
refresh myself on that. Yeah, it's gonna be so funny. I hope no one dies. That's really the only way that they're gonna stop making new Jackasses is if they get carried away with a stunt and somebody dies. Besides that, just bring it on. What's your favorite Jackass sketch, Big T?
I was actually telling some of my friends the other day, because I saw the commercial for the new movie, I've never watched Jackass.
What?
Never seen one.
You've never seen a TV show or
No.
the movie?
No. So I was like, I'm going to watch this one now that, but because like I was a kid, so like it didn't really, I just never
All
watched
right,
it.
Big T, what I want you to do, can you find Jackass the movie online right now?
Well, let's find out.
Yeah, look it up, and then I want you to just watch the movie, and then we'll get all your live reactions
While we're going?
while we're going. Yeah.
So it's...
Turn the sound off, but just have it on.
Okay, hang on. It's $2.99 on Amazon.
Okay, I'll reimburse you for that. While Big T's looking that up, I think it's now probably a pretty good time to talk to you about some of our favorite people in the entire world. That's our people over at Roman. The world's opening back up, so there's so many new thrills on the horizon. Whether you've been in a relationship for years, or if you're just getting started, or if you're excited to get back out there and meet new people, when the moment comes, you want to be ready. Go to getroman.com/barstool. Talk to a U.S. licensed healthcare professional. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for erectile dysfunction, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. If you're Roman ready, that means that you have confidence. That's the confidence to know that you can rise to the occasion in the moment. It's the summer of love, baby. Roman wants to make sure that you can participate in your way, whether that might be as a single person or a couple who would still rather stay indoors with each other. It's pretty simple. You can talk to a U.S. licensed healthcare professional. They're going to work with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication is appropriate, it ships to you free with 2-day shipping. The whole process is straightforward, convenient, and discreet. Getting started is simple. Just go to getroman.com/barstool. Complete an online visit. Take care of your ED without leaving your home. Complete your online visit today. Connect with a U.S. licensed healthcare professional and take care of it at getroman.com/barstool. And if you get prescribed, 50% off your first month of ED treatment. 50% off at getroman.com/barstool. All right. It's Cult Week, baby. Let's get into cults. Let's talk about it. I'm interested to know what Arian and Coley were going to pick for their cults. We'll have to catch up with them later on that. First of all, have you guys had, anybody in this room, had any experience in or around a cult? Besides Barstool Sports. Big T had a smile that started to creep onto his face
Because
he was like, I don't know if I can laugh at that without losing my job.
Well, no, I was going to say, when you said that, I was actually going to say that. Not a cult. I've mentioned before, though, the church that we went to when I was a kid was pretty, it's not a cult, but they were pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Madeline?
I mean, the only thing that I can think of that I've been like compared to a cult is like a sorority.
Yeah?
And then I went to an all-girls high school, and people called us a cult.
So there are a lot of things. I think that being in a cult cults are spectrums. So there's a lot of stuff that you could probably define as a cult if you wanted to, like being a fan of University of Tennessee football has many cult-like traits. Going to like playing on a football team, just in general, could be classified as being a cult. It has many cult-like traits, especially when everyone is like considered like you have to fall in line, you have to give ultimate respect to this person. And there are a lot of I'm really good at identifying when old friends of mine from high school start to fall into multi-level marketing schemes on Facebook. I was
gonna say that, yeah.
And they start posting videos. A big clue to me is like whenever somebody updates their Facebook stories, that's cult-like behavior, right? I don't care what there's no good reason to be utilizing Facebook stories on a day-to-day basis. And there's so many of those out there, the multi-level marketing things, that I think probably like they start to blur the line into whether or not something is a cult or not. But I've got a document here that I can pull up, and it's let's see what university is from. This is from the UCNRV.org. It's about cults. It says groups that meet the definition of a cult tend to have an escalating negative impact on the lives of followers. These groups exhibit many common characteristics. It's a religion or sect generally considered to be extremist or false, under the guidance of an authoritarian, charismatic leader for whom members exhibit fixed, even religious veneration. There's one charismatic leader that is the group's sole authority on truth. Only this leader decides or has the right to approve all policies and practices. Members are zealous, protective, and unquestioningly committed to the leader. Members regard the leader's beliefs and practices as truth and law. The leader affirms or enforces this idea. Questioning, doubt, and dissent are discouraged or punished. The group's leadership dictates how members should think, act, and feel. Members require the leader's permission to change jobs, date, marry, or have children. The leader tells members where they can live and how to teach and discipline their children. Criticism or jokes about the leader or group are taken very seriously, likely punished. The group is elitist, claiming special status for itself. The leader and members maintain theirs is the only path to truth and salvation. And then there are some behavioral patterns, some abusive behavioral patterns that also follow along in most cults. But that is the general definition of a cult that we're going to be going off of on today's show. So that information was in the article Characteristics Associated with Cult Groups by Dr. John Jelilich and Dr. Michael Lagone in 2006 from the International Cultic Studies Association. That sounds like an awesome place to work.
So the word cult comes from the Latin colo, colere, colui, cultus, for everyone who had to take Latin because you went to Catholic school.
That's one word?
Yeah, well, it's 4 declensions right there. Basically it comes from the last one, cultus, is like the pluperfect or something. That is the 4th. Anyway.
Did you say the word declensions?
Yeah.
What's a declension? I feel like that's the first time that I've ever heard that word in my life.
It's Latin, bro.
Okay.
It's just crazy.
Got it. Yeah.
I took Latin once because I thought it would help me.
Did it? Well, you did. It just did.
Yeah,
right
I just
there.
did.
Attention, Billy's high school Latin teacher. Billy just applied a term that he learned from you and taught hundreds of thousands of people the definition of a declension.
I actually probably got it totally wrong. It might be declension. I don't think it's the right word. It's just a type. I don't know.
Who cares?
No, it is. I looked it up.
It's 4th declension. Anyway,
a declension is.
It means to foster, maintain, to live in a place or inhabit, or to cultivate and promote growth. So there's one thing that separates cults from like culture, is this idea of like it has these 4 things. There has to be a charismatic leader, social group defined by its unusual religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs, particular objective or goal, and excessive devotion. Just because there's 2 things, because I was looking through a lot of this stuff and I was like, okay, what's culture and what's cult? Because a lot of people call stuff a cult as like a joke. Like if it just has a particular object or goal and excessive devotion, it does not necessarily make it a cult.
Okay.
So like a lot of, workplace environments, sports teams, like there is excessive devotion in particular object or goal, but does not necessarily make it a cult.
All right, so hypothetically, if we're just going to talk about a football team, right?
Right.
New England Patriots. What makes the New England Patriots not a cult?
Bill Belichick is not charismatic.
Oh, no, that's not true. You always hear, like, he's really funny when he's not on camera, when he's not talking to reporters. People are like, Bill is the funniest guy in this room.
You think he's charismatic?
I think he is behind the scenes, yeah.
Well, the Patriot way is a philosophical belief.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure is.
Excessive devotion by followers.
Uh-huh.
To do crazy things like occupy a...
Do your job. Yeah, do your job.
Okay, maybe it is a cult.
So, really, you could take this definition to mean, like, a lot of sports teams could be considered cult, but they don't have, like, that sinister, like,
Right.
When people talk about Bill Belichick being, like, charismatic leader, he's not saying, like, the only way to exist is to follow my truth. He's just saying the only way to exist for my team is to exist in this truth.
I was going to say, to his players, I think he does say that.
Yeah. Actually, I think we're talking ourselves into the Patriots
honest,
actually being a cult.
I've just realized that I've been a part of many cults, and I'm in denial.
Yeah. This is what it looks like, breaking the brainwashing. It's a painful experience.
I mean, if Bill Belichick was like... Honestly, I think sex is definitely a component in all cults. So if Bill Belichick was like had prima nocta on Giselle, I think that would make him more cult-like.
Do we know that he doesn't?
Actually, we do not.
I bet you Ernie Adams gets first on that. Ernie goes and explores. Yeah, so you could take the definition of a lot of things and kind of like work it into cults. But there's, I guess in modern society and the way that we think about cults is there's always like something a little bit sinister involved, something that's like kind of like dangerous or will trick people into doing things that they in a million years would never have even considered doing, and turning against like their own family and friends and kind of just changing their entire personality, everything about them, in order to follow a cult. So I guess before we get into specific examples, I've always wondered, when do cult leaders actually sit down and think to themselves, I'm going to start a cult? Or do you think that cult leaders are already kind of in their own cult, their cult of one that they try to spread to other people?
So, I mean, I think like if we want to look at examples of like real cults that start up, it all starts with a certain belief system. And like one guy trying to, like, honestly, we're not going to be too critical of religion as a whole, but one guy convincing a bunch of other guys that his beliefs and philosophies are right is sort of the genesis of a lot of cults. And there are some parallels to religion, but it sort of has to do with the end goal and like the sort of means to justify the spread of the religion.
Or like one person trying to convince a bunch of folks around him that he is God, or that he is like the only one that's being spoken to by a higher power. Do you think that person is usually crazy though? Yeah, I'm sure it varies by case to case, but do you think the guy that starts the cult, the Elizabeth Holmes of starting the brand new organization, do they know like I am just going to make this up because I want all this power from people, or are they like, I actually, you know what, I'm right, I am God?
I think it starts like, I think they do in their head think that a certain thing, like they actually believe their cause, but I think then once they get in that position of power, that's when they just start going like
once they get good feedback, they start to believe their own bullshit more, and then it's kind of like the natural reward that they're getting encourages that behavior for them to keep going.
I think it's like the Stanford prison experiment. Once certain people get a lot of power, then they just start doing whatever they want to their followers.
I heard that was Fugazi, that the Stanford prison experiment, it was fucked up. Yeah, like we've been learning about it for years, but I heard recently that like some of the people that were involved in organizing it kind of lied about exactly what happened.
So it didn't go to Lord of the Flies, like...
Not really. But again, I forget the source that I saw on that. It could have been somebody that ran the experiment. It could have also been somebody that was in the experiment as a guard who is saying, like, we knew that it was an experiment the whole time. We were just playing along. But that also might be them trying to make themselves look in retrospect. Big T, yeah?
In a 2017 interview, Corpy, I guess one of the guys who was in it, stated that his breakdown had been fake and that he did it only so that he could leave and return to studying. He had originally thought that he could study while, quote, imprisoned, but the prison staff would not allow him.
Oh, so he wanted to get out of the experiment.
Yeah, so he was like, this is dumb. I just want to go home.
That guy was in a cult. That guy was in the cult of Ivy League education system.
Yeah.
I can refer to Stanford as being Ivy League, right? They're the Ivy League of
They're the Harvard
Bay
of
Area.
the West.
Well, I think Berkeley might have something to say about that. Berkeley would probably call themselves.
No, higher academia is definitely cult-like.
Yeah. Yeah, but
100%.
really, everywhere you go, there are cults. I've always just wondered, like, the guy who starts a cult, how does that even begin? How do you get people to buy in if you yourself aren't even bought in? So I think there's probably a ceiling on somebody who is self-aware, starting a cult and just trying to fool people. There's probably only so big that they can get before, like, they just start to crack because they realize that they don't even believe they're bullshit.
Huh.
You know?
And then there's also, the cult of personality, which is another, influence of cults. Like, this was an idea that was first populated. This idea that, in order to have a cult, you need a personality. You need this, like, number one guy. It was first used in Karl Marx, in a letter from Karl Marx to a German political worker in November 1877. And then it was famously used in Nikita Khrushchev's 1956 speech on the cult of personality and its consequences on the final day of the 20th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Basically, it was like this Stalinism is antithetical to Marxism, and sort of this idea that these leaders elicit such a cult following that it sort of goes far away from the actual first beliefs and like what they were trying to do in the beginning. So, for example, communism hijacked by Stalin and then became this thing that wasn't about everyone being equal and well, actually, hopefully Arian drops in soon and we can sort of talk about how that goes bad and how basically one of the reasons why people say that communism will never work in actuality is because of this cult of personality effect. That basically someone starts like revolution, like we're all going to be equal, and then once they get the power, then they start doing messed up stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, this is like the reason why, maybe like, because a lot of these cults are religious, like people seeking enlightenment in religion or in their beliefs, and it just goes really, really badly. Except, you know what? You know who doesn't fall into this role? L. Ron Hubbard.
Really?
He created Scientology, which a lot of people who have left the Scientology church have said this is 100% a cult.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, that was Billy saying that. A lot of people that have left Scientology have said that. That was not Billy saying that.
Yeah, I'm not
trying to
saying
get
that.
sued, Billy.
Is they doing that?
Scientologists
Scientology
will
will come for you.
They're
fuck
big.
you up.
They will?
Yeah,
Fuck.
bro.
A parody law.
Yeah.
I fuck frogs. There we go.
Okay, done. I think that'll solve it. I think you don't even have to say if you just say I fuck frogs after anything, that's just like saying no offense.
Like, you can't sue me.
Yeah.
But basically, L. Ron Hubbard, in a bet with another science fiction writer, L. Ron Hubbard's the founder of Scientology. He was a science fiction writer.
Mm-hmm.
Made a bet with his buddy about who could create a religion first. And so, yeah, he created a cult and didn't believe his own shit. 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's crazy because you have to reach like a high level in Scientology before you start to experience, before they explain to you the craziest parts of it. Everything before you get to whatever level it is, like level 7.
Yeah.
They never thought that anybody would stick around for long enough to reach level 7 or level 8 or whatever it is. And so then it goes from a religion that's mostly about like how to optimize your interpersonal relationships and things like that, into like aliens got dropped into a volcano.
One of the most, the writer that he made the bet with was fellow writer Robert A. Heinlein. So, like basically Scientology's defectors have revealed that Scientologists believe 75 million years ago, Xenu, the dictator of the Galactic Confederacy, froze billions of aliens, brought them to Earth, and then dropped them into a volcano, killing them. The spirit of these aliens, called Thetans, wander Earth and are what causes spiritual harm. Honestly, what if, hypothetically...
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but what if Hubbard is like he was like, you know, trying to instill like good, like actual good behaviors and actions in his teachings, but he used this story to sort of get people to actually do them. And then when you reach like the top of Scientology, it's like none of this is all science fiction. Like, I just wanted you to be better people.
Yeah.
That would be justifiable.
There probably could have been some simpler ways that he could have gone about explaining what happened without involving like the volcanoes.
But maybe that's
Volcanoes. He was just when he wrote the history of Scientology, and he was like, okay, the alien freezes all of the bad people, then they're going to travel to Earth, and then destroy them, and then their souls will wander around causing bad shit to happen on Earth. His buddy was like, what about volcanoes? And he was like, he like salt bathed the volcanoes, and at the last second he's like, yeah, the frozen aliens, boom, they were in volcanoes. That's how they got destroyed. Just a little flair. But there's definitely easier ways that he could have explained what happened. But you don't think that Scientology is a cult, right, Billy?
I do not.
You do, but you also fuck frogs.
Yes, I believe it's a culture.
When you say
cult.
when you say something like that, that's such like a football coach thing to say.
Yeah.
Like you can say a sentence that doesn't really make that much sense, but it sounds cool. Like, you need to separate your cult from your culture, son.
I have no idea. By the way, I think Scientology, they're probably very problematic, and I'm not like pro or against Scientology. I don't know. Do they really sue people?
Yeah.
Are we gonna get in trouble?
No.
Okay.
I think they know that we don't pay you.
We'll
so.
So you're not. You said you're not anti-Scientology.
I don't know.
I'll go on the record. I'm anti-Scientology.
I will too.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Sue
so
me.
safety in numbers. I am also.
Don't actually sue me though.
I think they're.
See,
But
you see how
don't
easily
sue me.
that happens?
No, but I'm on the record. Like,
you tucked tail with
I'm
it. That took
anti.
about half a second, Big T, for you to realize that you've made some very powerful enemies.
it's just a headache I don't want to deal with.
Listen,
No.
you either die on your feet or you stand on your knees. Which one is it going to be, Big T?
I'll die on my feet.
Okay, well then say it again. This time with your chest.
Scientology's a cult. I'm anti-Scientology.
Okay, now
Um,
explain yourself.
I mean, they're objectively insane people.
Go on.
I mean, we've been sitting here talking about Xenu and the volcanoes, and they're also like just all the crazy, the Thetans and all.
Have you gotten your Thetans checked ever?
I've not. No.
You're giving off big Thetan energy, like
big.
that's what the T stands for.
Speaking of dying on your feet, I'm 18 minutes into Jackass right now, and which one is this? Is it Steve-O? He's standing in a pool of alligators with like meat tied to his ass.
Yeah.
That's the best one I've seen so far.
So it's shocking to me that you haven't laughed a single time.
Well, I'm assuming it's better with sound on,
Probably, yeah.
and it was probably better in 2002 also.
Yeah, it's still pretty good. I think it
That was
holds
the
up.
first one that I was like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, so
The other ones were just them crashing into
You
shit.
you got a lot of negativity right now. I can't help but imagine that if you got the Thetan test, which is don't they just like inject niacin into your skin, and then if it turns purple or starts to tingle, they're like, yeah, that's a Thetan that's in there.
Niacin's in Red Bull. It's actually insane vasodilator.
It is. It's good for workouts. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So, Madeline, you think Scientology cult?
I'm gonna go on that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go on that record and say that I think Scientology is a cult.
Russia also agrees with you. So Russia
Sick.
actually has a very extensive list of religions that it considers cults, and Mormonism, the Church of Latter-day Saints, and Scientology are both on that list, which is actually kind of interesting. Like,
So I took place in one of these, or I took part in a self-improvement seminar, not under my own will, but this was back in 2000, I want to say 2009, 2010, when I was down in Austin, Texas, and my boss made everybody that he hired go to this seminar called the Landmark Forum. And they are very litigious. They will sue you if you call them a cult. So I won't say that they are a cult, but I will say that there are numerous countries in Europe that have publicly labeled them to be a cult, and they are banned from doing anything in countries like Sweden and a couple other places. So other governments have called them a cult. I have not, but I got to like experience a little taste of what the brainwashing techniques are, because I'll tell you a little bit about the weekend. So I didn't know what I was signing up for. I was just told that by my boss I had to go to the seminar. I knew that it was going to last all day Friday, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday, and then there'd be something on like Monday night. And when I say all day, I mean it went from like 8 o'clock a.m. to probably like 11 p.m. Got a small break for lunch in there, but we were just sitting in this room in a hotel, like a banquet room, and like an hour or two in, I started to realize that something weird was going on because I didn't understand what the fuck they were talking about. There was one leader that leads the entire weekend, and I could not understand what words that she was saying. She was just using all sorts of weird terminology, and things just didn't make sense. She was talking about the technology that she was going to impart on all of us this weekend, like she was programming us. I was like, this is odd. And then I looked around. I saw all the volunteers that were working for this forum going up and adjusting the temperature of the room like every 30 minutes, making it really, really hot, and then really, really cold, then really, really hot. You weren't allowed to leave. You got assigned with one partner, and you were accountable for their for where they were, like their attendance for the entire weekend. You weren't allowed to make any phone calls. You weren't allowed to go to the bathroom unless they gave you like specific permission. And then after like 3 days of this, your mind starts to like break down. I remember on the Sunday afternoon, they did like maybe a 10-minute period of silence for everyone.
Jeez.
And then one by one, almost everybody in the room just started laughing. And then the next person would hear somebody laughing, and then they'd start to laugh. And then the teacher would be like, you guys are getting it. You're finally getting it.
It's like mass hysteria.
And I had no idea what the fuck was going on. I guess I learned that weekend that I think I'm very hard to brainwash because I was laughing the entire time. And then so my accountability partner decided not to show up, God bless her, on Saturday.
That was your saving grace.
And then I got yelled at in front of the whole room, like, or we'll cut that out. But they're like, where's your accountability partner? And I was like, I don't know. I don't really care. And they're like, well, you got to go find her. So they send me upstairs to like the office of the Landmark Forum, and they make me go through their personal records and try to find this person's phone number. I've got like 6 people from the forum standing over my shoulders being like, you need to call her on the phone, get her back here. So I called her. I was like, hey, I know that you're not here right now, but they're making me call you to try to get you back, but it's whatever. Like, I get it. This place is weird. And then they hung up the phone. They like reached over, pressed the end call button, and they're like, that was really immature. I'm very disappointed in how you handled that. And I was like, it was the craziest weekend of my life. And then you have to, on Tuesday, you have to bring somebody else back to try to pitch them. And they teach you how to recruit people to sign up for the class. It was the most bizarre thing that I've ever experienced in my life. And everybody that works for them are people that just graduated from their seminars that now are volunteering their time to work for this company and spread the message.
What job was this for that your boss made you go to this?
A software testing company. It had nothing to do whatsoever with my job. The whole point behind it is they want to reprogram you with how you think, and they want to transform you into being somebody that doesn't let their past experiences define who they are in the present. But they do it in a very, very strange, extremely controlling fashion. And I'm actually kind of glad that I went because I know that I can't be brainwashed.
I've actually heard about this a lot. Like a lot of corporations and stuff, like they get all of their, employees to be in this group think type thing. This happens a lot in like tech sales. I was like, a bunch of my buddies just graduated and they're like working in sales jobs and like some banking jobs, and they're like all talking about how like some of these places get into this really kind of culty type thing so that they can make all the individuals work harder. There's checks and balances, so like that buddy system thing.
Yeah.
Like it's just going to make sure that everyone's operating at the highest efficiency.
They're big companies that make all their employees go through this. Like Lululemon sends a lot of their employees through this exact same training. I'll tell you 2 more quick stories about this because when I say it was like the most bizarre week in my life, I still don't even really believe that it's real sometimes because it was so weird. There was one exercise that we had to do where you just took the person that was sitting next to you randomly. Everybody in the room stood up, and they made you stand almost nose to nose, maybe like 2 inches away with your noses, staring into each other's eyes. And you weren't allowed to talk. You weren't allowed to look away. The leader was like walking around the room, making sure that we were all doing it. And I was so uncomfortable. I was just like, I turned my brain off and just looked ahead. There was this guy who was probably like 35 years old that was staring back into my eyes right in front of me. And I swear to God, after like 2 minutes, his eyes just start to water and he just starts to weep. And when I mean like ugly cry, he was like screaming his tears. and just tears pouring down his face, and had like an emotional breakdown directly in front of my face because he went to a place in his brain where he was like reliving a past trauma that he had, because it's such a weird experience you'll never do that in your life, to just stare at somebody that's right in front of you for that long. And he just had a complete and utter breakdown, and he eventually, like, he stuck around for the rest of the weekend and claimed that he was like fixed by this seminar. But it was so creepy, man. It was so bizarre.
What? Was this a coworker? So did you know this guy before
No,
the seminar?
no,
Oh, okay.
random person.
Dude, he could have been a plant.
Yeah.
You know, like,
What if everybody else in that seminar was a plant and I was being punked?
were you the
Quigs
only
thinks they are.
were you the only coworker there?
yeah,
Like,
but
did you know anybody else there?
No, it was a very small company though.
Huh.
But yeah, I could have been.
Yeah,
the only
they could.
person there.
Or there was other people from other companies, but like there was specific plants
Yeah,
like that were like supposed to do these things to make everyone believe in it.
that would not surprise me, because there were a couple people that had like massive transformations, is what they called it. Like
Yeah.
they transformed themselves into unlimited possibilities.
Also-
I'm using all the dialogue that I remember from.
Did
that.
anyone else's partner disappear? Or was that just yours?
No, there were a couple others
Oh, okay.
over the course of the weekend. Not many though. Like most people stuck around because you had to pay up front like $700 for
They-
3 days of this.
Did you pay for that, or the
No,
company
my boss
did?
paid for
Okay.
it, yeah.
I was like, if they made you pay for that, that's insane.
We
Yeah.
should
Go to it?
Go to one.
Yeah.
Send like
What-
we should send like Big T.
Did you figure out like what like cult or whatever was like running it?
So it's not a cult. Again, Madeline,
Oh,
want to
sorry,
be very
not a
clear.
cult.
Not a cult. There was a company back in the 70s that started called EST, and it was like a reprogramming type self-improvement seminar.
Sounds like Stranger Things a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
So there's actually like there's some overlap between EST and the Stranger Things program that like it was based around.
Like yeah.
But they had to change their name like 9 times because they kept getting sued and they kept having like people write bad articles about them. But if you've ever seen The Americans, it's the seminar that the FBI agent goes to. You remember that?
Yeah.
Where he's like sitting in a room and you get berated by somebody, and then people break down and try to like change their life. That turned into the Landmark Forum. Landmark bought the EST program, made some tweaks to it, and now they're carrying on that same thing. It's probably still some of the same people that work for it, but. The other crazy part of that weekend was because there were times when I was feeling like I was going crazy because everyone else in the room was having these like either breakthroughs or reactions and taking it very seriously, and I just couldn't believe that any of this bullshit was real. And there was a girl that was there with her boyfriend, and they were asking everybody what they're doing there, and I was like, my boss just made me come. And very quickly the leader was like, all right, we don't need to hear from you anymore. She identified me as being a troublemaker, so she didn't call on me. And then they asked this girl, like, what are you doing here? She stood up. She's like, I don't know. My boyfriend told me that I needed to come to this seminar this weekend. He's very passionate about it. He's been to 3 of these weekends, and he always tells me what an impact it's made on my life. And the leader was like, well, how do you think that it's going so far? She's like, I think I need to break up with him. And the whole room like looked and was like, what? And she's like, yeah, this is just so weird, and it's such a big part of his life that I don't know how else I can trust him and anything else that he's doing, because this is such a strange thing that makes me deeply uncomfortable with spending time with him. And then she just left. She just walked out and never came back
Why didn't you leave?
because I had to complete it for my work.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is,
Also, it gave me some good stories to tell
True.
about that weekend.
I've been a part of many cultures, as they say, like where you're like part of a team or part of like a class, and they try to instill these things. And I would not like to think that all of them are bad.
Right.
Like, I would like to think that, like, for example, that buddy system is a very common thing for weightlifting programs. So,
Yeah.
like, 6 a.m. lift, like, you have a buddy. You got to make sure he's out of bed. He makes sure you're out of bed.
Right.
And it's a good accountability system. And, like, I think there are some tactics to instill culture that don't necessarily instill a cult. Like,
Agreed.
winning football games, I do not think is a bad end goal. But I think creating super hyper attentive and hyper efficient workers at the sacrifice of their own personal well-being might, I don't know what that throws in there.
Also, a big part of this, the forum, is to just like completely change the way that you think and to isolate you from your family. There's a reason why they keep you there from so early in the morning to so late at night, is so you don't have time to talk to anybody about what you just went through that day. And you're not allowed to like get feedback, because once you start telling people, if I were to tell you like at the end of one of those days everything that we did in that hotel banquet hall, you would be like, yo, this is fucking nuts. What are you doing? Like anybody on the outside would immediately raise all the red flags. So they keep you isolated a little bit. And I think like organizations that are actually like cults are also isolating you from your family, from anybody that's not involved in their program, in their organization. And that is obviously like to the detriment of you. So Billy, when you're working out, you can go eat lunch. You can run a Quiznos if you want.
Right.
You can go home at the end of the day and hang out with your dog and your frogs.
Right.
And maybe even talk to your parents if you feel like it. But in an organization that's like definitely a cult, they just isolate you from everyone, because everyone that is not in the cult is bad for your life to them.
I would say, I think I would like for us to make some sort of structure to differentiate culture and cult, and I think that's isolation's a big one. I think we should like make that part of our jam.
Isolation, I think financial is something like a financial gain that the cult gains from you being in it.
Also, do you think that's going to be possible anymore now that everyone has phones? Like, they probably take your cell phone at those things nowadays.
Yep.
Huh.
No phones. You're not allowed to take notes. You just have to sit there and listen to
Memories.
it go. But at the very end of the weekend, the leader went around and was giving compliments to everybody in terms of like showing how much you've grown and what they've seen from you. And it's also a way for them to butter you up and make sure that if you want to even get to the next level, then you have to come back for the advanced seminar that's taking place in a month, which I had to also go to. But I did not want to go. But at the end of it, the leader was giving out all these compliments, and she just looked at me and she goes, you really need to work on opening up your mind to new ideas. Like the meanest thing that she said to anybody. Everyone else was like, I'm so proud of everything that you've done. And me, it's like she was basically telling me, I fucking hate you. You almost ruined this weekend for everybody. But I took that as a compliment at the end of it. I was like, I got a Teflon brain, bitch.
We did something like that in high school. Like, it was, if you went to Catholic high school, it was called Kairos, and you go on, like, a weekend, and we weren't allowed to have our phones. And at my high school, we went to a nunnery in, like, western Pennsylvania, like, in the middle of nowhere. And not that it was a cult, and I actually really enjoyed it, but you can't have your phone, you can't talk to anyone, and you basically have this, like, spiritual experience where, like, you give talks, like, the leaders who are like seniors gave talks to the kids who were there about like their deepest traumas, and then you like go around in groups and you talk about like the issues in your life and all that kind of stuff, and then like they read your parents write you letters, and then like the teachers that are there like read them out to everyone, so it'll be like you find out a lot of like shit about the girls that you're with, and they'll be like, oh yeah, like when you're brother killed that man or whatever. It's like, what?
Who are you hanging out with? No, I understand what you're saying, because I think sometimes the way to get people to break down a little bit is just like admit all your deepest secrets.
Yeah.
And then you feel like you're like either you've formed a connection or you're
totally
exposed, and so they have like leverage on you.
There's classic like team building stuff that like everyone goes through, like anything with trust falls involved, like those types of things that like retreats or whatnot.
Oklahoma drills.
No, but like also oh man.
Well, how come people only go like the only time you hear about people ziplining are when they go to like a leadership retreat? What is it about ziplining that makes people into better leaders?
Putting a lot of trust into that.
Also, paintball is a great team building activity.
Paintball, ziplining, that's about it, really. Those are the only two ways to make leaders anymore in this country.
Paintball's sick.
Paintball is sick. So yeah, that was just a real quick, my not cult,
That's
but
insane.
similar cult experience.
Was the advanced one worse?
Yeah, the advanced one was worse. It was bad, but because it was smaller, so I got like more individual time. Yeah, and so that I just turned my brain off for like 3 days and just hated every second of it. it was just for my job that I had to do it. But yeah, we should send Big T to the Landmark Forum.
Get him reprogrammed.
Would you go to it?
Let's see how weak that brain is.
Somebody
or
else would have to
strong
go. I would
is.
do it, but somebody else has to go too.
What were you saying about the yawning? That you had a strong brain?
Yeah, like I'm very convinced that they couldn't.
Okay, we will send you, but you have to. Maybe I'll send you and somebody else, but you have to do everything they say.
Okay.
You can't be there and secretly playing games on your phone or leaving or skipping a day of it.
Okay.
You need to be there and actively participate. You don't have to believe what they're telling you.
Okay.
But you have to listen to everything that they're saying and participate in the different drills and instructions.
I want Avery to go.
Avery and Big T? Maybe we send Avery with a hidden camera too?
I'll go.
I kind of like
But what
this.
if they actually come back and they're
They probably will. That's the thing. Which I think that'd be great to have two people who are brainwashed on this podcast.
What was the number one thing they were trying to get you to believe?
That's a good question. The number one thing they were trying to get me to believe is that my life is so much better now that I've gone to the Landmark Forum that I want
Right.
to tell all my friends to go.
Sure.
That's literally what the point of it was. They turned everybody into salespeople. They would say that the best part of it is you learn how to separate things that happened in your past, and when you start to think about things that have happened before and let that impact your day-to-day life, they call that you're in a racket. So
Sounds like
right now I'm in a racket, and the lady was like, studies have been done that show that people that are driving while they're in rackets are actually more dangerous and less attentive than people who have a blood alcohol percentage of above 0.12, which is there's no possible way to study if somebody's in a completely made up term or not, you know?
I'm looking up the schedule right now.
I think they're doing most of them online because of COVID. COVID's probably really impacted the fly-by-night self-improvement seminar business.
They have 90 different seminars.
Yeah. Oh, it's worldwide, baby.
Sex and intimacy from predicament to possibility.
Oh, you want? Yeah. So that's one thing we need to work on is you need to improve your possibility,
Okay.
Big T, because right now you're dealing with some rackets from your past, and you need to be
Sure.
open to the possibility of abundance.
Okay.
I still remember.
I'm open to abundance.
Are you open to abundance?
in many facets of life, I am open to abundance.
Okay.
But you just fell for it.
No, he's not falling for
No, I
anything.
said
falling
I'm
for it.
open to abundance.
Why wouldn't you be open to abundance?
Why would you close yourself off to more opportunity?
Mm-hmm. I want you to exist as the possibility of opportunity and abundance.
I want to go to being extraordinary. That's my.
Big T.
When are we going?
I'm trying to.
He's
find
looking
out.
up some schedule right now.
Breakthroughs, living outside the box.
Yeah, listen, Big T, the transformation that you're going to undergo is going to be nothing short of inspirational.
It looks like there really aren't. I don't even see an option to do it online.
The technology that they can impart on you, it's going to be fascinating. You need to hold yourself accountable for your act.
This just sounds like the perfect setup of a multi-level marketing company.
Yeah. Well, listen, once Big T is complete and he's decided to clear himself of the context of choosing versus deciding, I think that he will be in an extreme possibility of unlimited abundance.
So Europe has marked a lot of these as cults.
There
the
are some
countries.
there are some countries that have done it. Yeah.
So Europe actually really cracked down on cults recently because in the 90s there was we can get into some historical cults, but this one was had to do with the Knights Templars. Templars, which really went kind of nutso. So there's this. I don't know. Should we start talking about history? So this one was called the Order of the Solar Temple, and it was basically super European. It really one of the things the Knights Templars sort of all that sort of stuff really spread across Europe because the Knights Templar came from all sorts of countries in Europe, so everyone could sort of identify it. So it was called the Solar Temple, and their whole idea was that they were going to unite all of the monotheistic God religions, so Islam, all sorts of Christianity, Judaism, and they their idea was they were going to combine them all and like just worship the sun god, basically, which is the one god and the one that we should be looking up. And it's actually was pretty widespread across Europe. And it was started by a French author, Jacques Brière, who established a sovereign order of the Solar Temple in 1952. And basically, this involved a lot of, high up Europeans and like high society Europe, like in France, Switzerland, and all these places. And this is where so Europe had a bunch of mass suicides because they were basically performing a ritual called the Last Supper, where they were having a Last Supper and then just like mass suiciding.
Like Midsummer?
No, like the Last Supper.
No, but have you seen the movie Midsummer?
No.
That like, spoiler alert, but like that in the middle of it, they have like
Suey season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they were killing themselves because they wanted to believe that they just took place in an actual Last Supper.
The thing is, when you start looking at the beliefs of this stuff, it's like always intertwined with already recognized beliefs. So this was intertwined with Christianity, certain like a lot of the Judeo-Christian, Abrahamic religions. So like, they were always going after imagery like the Last Supper, this idea that Jesus was like a lot of crazy stuff, but it also included a Olympian, Edith Bonlow, who was the women's downhill at the 1956 Winter Olympics. So once, and also it spread to Canada. There was a bunch in Quebec. So like this was the sort of one like cult that made Europe be like, okay, we're totally anti-cult. Like no one's allowed to mess around with cults anymore. Whereas in the U.S., like freedom of speech, freedom of information, they could never really like, they did, deal with some cults, but Europe like put a big stop
It's
to
the
cults.
pesky
like,
Constitution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Constitution is great, amazing, love the Constitution, but there's a lot of room for cults in the Constitution.
It's very exploitable by cults for sure. They saw that document. They were like, okay, I got my new home right now. Which, by the way, we do need to do the episode where we draft a new constitution
True.
and start a government from scratch. Not that we're replacing our beautiful constitution that we have right now. We're just saying hypothetically.
Hypothetically.
A cult-proof constitution.
Yeah, cult, exactly.
That's what we should go
Honestly,
for.
that would be huge.
So, all right, so rule number 1, no cults. But Billy, who gets to decide if it's a cult?
Another cult.
A leadership cult.
Leadership cult.
Okay. The death panel, do they get to decide? So that's where you come into the question of like where do you start regulating cults and stop regulating religion?
Yeah. Technically all these cults claim to be religions.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Knights Templar. I recognize that name from National Treasures 1 and 2, right? Weren't they in there?
yeah, probably.
Probably. Yeah, I forget what they did.
Yeah.
I think it was their treasure in Mount Everest, right?
Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably Mount. That's really the only place they have to go. Like,
Yeah.
where do you go from Mount Rushmore in the next?
Yeah.
Who knows? All right. So you got any more historical facts about?
Knights Templar. I got a bunch of other cults.
I think we got to go with a fact off real quick. Do you have any? Wait, Big T, did you bring facts?
Well, all my facts are just about one particular cult, so it's not like
Which cult?
cults
Let's
in
see.
general.
Let's see if Billy knows more facts about your cult than
He
you.
doesn't have any facts about this cult on his sheet.
Okay.
Well, I
let's-
actually
What
have,
cult is it?
I have cults in the chamber.
Okay, so my cult was Angel's Landing, but I don't want to shoot all my bullets now, and then when we talk about our cults, I don't have anything left.
Do you have any Angels Landing facts, Billy?
What is it also called?
No. I intentionally tried to do one
Heaven's
that I
Gate?
knew nobody else
Yeah.
would.
That's
would
one of my
do.
favorite cults.
Yeah. Everyone's obsessed with the Heaven's Gate.
Love
cult.
Heaven's Gate.
What?
It was
what?
the visual of the Nikes. All their shoes were so clean.
Yeah. I'm
Like,
sure they only wore them to.
Yeah, say what you want about like everything that they did, but they got a fit off. The blue blanket. It looked like they were draped in Crown Royal bags with some clean Nikes.
They make it on Kicks in the Office.
Yeah. He's actually should do a Kicks in the Office episode about Heaven's Gate. It was honestly, it also hit at that exact time for me where things that I was seeing on the news was like very scary to me on a personal level, where I was old enough to understand exactly what was happening, but I wasn't really old enough to completely understand that just because it was on the national news, it wasn't going to happen to me. So like I was afraid that like there was going to be a cult that was going to move in next door, or that people that I know would kill themselves in like a mass suicide, just because I saw those videos were like everywhere on the news.
Heaven's Gate's one of the ones, like I talked about this when I interviewed to be the intern, how much I love cults and doomsday cults. Heaven's Gate is one that like sticks with me.
Yeah.
Like that is like the guy who runs it, the Applegate, his eyes are in my nightmares.
Applewhite. So that the Heaven's Gate cult actually, it had it all. It was really maybe like the goat cult.
Their website is still available.
Yeah,
I go on their website sometimes.
So you can go, was it heavensgate.com? Yeah, I think it's heavensgate.com. But everything about this was like the perfect cult. The guy that ran it had those crazy eyes. He would talk to you like he was like hypnotizing you almost with his eyes. The suicide when they thought that there was a comet that was going to take them away. The Hale Bopp comet was passing Earth.
This one was surviving for like 50 years, right? Like it was going strong until this comet came along.
Let's see, it had 41 members until 1997, and now it's only got 2 left. Who were the 2 that...
They run the website.
Okay, got it. The web
I mean, they are clearly actively updating it.
So it started in 1974 with Marshall Applewhite. I always want to call him Major Applewhite, like the old quarterback from University of Texas. And Bonnie Nettles. They started in 1974. So yeah,
they went by D and wait.
Basically, wasn't
Do
it
and D?
Yeah.
T, I think.
T. Yeah, it was like do, re, mi, fa, sol, yeah.
Wasn't
T
it
and do because it was the last 2. Yep.
basically one of the founders died, and basically that sort of like, you know, their whole thing was that dying and leaving their earthly bodies to go to a spaceship where they go to internal, you know, heaven or another atmosphere or whatever. But like since one of the founders like died too soon before everyone was supposed to die, they were like, yo, like what's happening? Like we were all supposed to die together and go to this spaceship. And then that's when he was like, oh, well, this comet is the spaceship. And that sort of just ended the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, it was also, they had to explain how somebody could possibly die when their whole message that they were preaching was, we're going to live forever if we believe in this thing. And so when the leader died, they switched it up on you, and they pulled like the okey doke and said, actually, your body doesn't mean that you're alive. Your body is just a vessel for your soul. And so it doesn't matter if your body is here or not. The only way that you can get your soul into heaven is if you leave the vessel, and then your body will be sucked up into the UFO that's in the tail of this comet that's coming by in 1997.
Jesus.
Yeah. So how many people died? 41 or 39 people maybe.
Did Applewhite survive and just neuter himself?
No.
Oh, he neutered himself before?
He did neuter himself too. Yeah.
Yeah. Him and a bunch of others just neutered himself. By the way, we're totally forgetting about all these cults. They're just literal excuses for orgies.
Yeah, it was 39 people that died.
Was this a fucking cult though? I don't think that this was a sex cult.
Definitely sex.
I mean, I
involved.
think there was probably sex involved, but it wasn't purely motivated by sex.
There's always.
It's
sex
not like
involved.
that. What's the one that the actors just got the knee? Nexium.
Yeah.
Like it's not like that. Like it was religious, but I'm sure there was sex happening.
Yeah, it was. Dude, literally, it's just tricks by like the one dude to like get laid.
Yeah.
It's like literally like bonk. Like you're gonna
Right.
start a cult. You're that horny. Bonk.
Right. But I do think that in the case of Heaven's Gate, I don't think that Marshall Applewhite was fucking. I think he started the cult for pure reasons. He just wanted to get people to a spaceship.
Well, if you look into that man's eyes in those videos, he is definitely not right in the head.
He literally was. He probably was so horny. That's why he neutered himself.
Wait,
Good point.
So he could be horny.
He bonked himself.
He bonked himself.
The ultimate bonk, just cut off his testicles.
Just so he could probably bone without any repercussions.
Yeah, but if you lose your balls, I don't think you can fuck anymore. Can you?
Like,
Well-
isn't also the point of neutering like to like lower your sex drive?
Yeah, lower your sex drive.
I could imagine there were pharmaceutical help to that.
He didn't have Roman swipes.
Or Roman ED treatment.
If he did.
If he did, he could have fucked. Yeah. So say what you want about the Heaven's Gate cult. Probably not a great idea to join that cult, but they had their shit together when it came to performing this mass suicide. Like the steps that they put into place, where it was like, okay, there would be a first wave, and then they would get covered by the next people, and the next people would go ahead and eat that applesauce that had what it was like what was the name of the drug that was in there, Billy?
Cyanide?
Cyanide.
It had cyanide in the not the Kool-Aid. This was the applesauce, though.
I think it was cyanide in the applesauce.
I think there was.
There's a mixture. I think it had like some stuff, some of the stuff that they use in lethal injection that stops your heart too.
Apples do have cyanide in their seeds.
Okay.
So maybe it was just like super cyanide.
This phenobarbital.
There we go. Yeah. So that stopped their hearts, but they did it in waves, where like the next people would then cover up the last people that did it.
These last two people.
Mm-hmm.
They were the last. They helped. They just let everybody else.
No, I think they were designated. If I'm remembering correctly, they were designated to stay on Earth to spread the message of Heaven's Gate.
Yeah, not very easy to convince.
And they'll
people.
still have their ticket to Heaven's Gate, or whatever. Next comment.
Do you think that they have more people that have joined the cult now? Like these people,
based on their
really,
website, no.
They've done a really shitty job of sticking around to spread the word. Like 39 of your best friends died thinking that you were going to keep up with technology
and you didn't,
and at least have a mobile optimized cult website for people to look up.
They don't even have a social media manager.
No social media.
You know where they need to go? They need to go to the seminar for self-improvement.
Yeah.
They do. We need to double cult. They need to go to the landmark forum and really activate themselves.
By the way, there are a couple coming up, but they're on football weekends, so that's kind of. But there's one in June in New York City next year.
Okay.
It's like June 20th.
But you're not willing to sacrifice a football weekend?
Well, I kind of have to work, so.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't expect you to.
This is also work.
This is work.
Football's different.
Football's different. Football is different.
Yeah, no,
not a cult.
It's not a cult.
Listen, he has to go make a pilgrimage along with 100,000 other people that are dressed exactly the same as him to a giant outdoor park and all cheer for 11 people on the field and
their charismatic coach. So he doesn't have time to do any cult activities this fall. Okay?
Jeez. Just wanted to put that out there, and so in case anyone gives you any shit about that, Big T, I'm on your side.
Okay, I don't get where you went with that, but
no, you went.
Yeah.
Huh. No big deal. All right, so Heaven's Gate is a good one, but Big T, let's get back to yours.
All right, you want to do Angel's Landing?
Angel's Landing.
It's gonna get dark pretty quick.
Before we get to Big T's cult, I want to talk to you guys about our great friends over at Upstart. Love Upstart. Upstart is a fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan. And it's all done online. Whether you got credit cards, you consolidate high interest debt, or if you're funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get one fixed monthly payment. Upstart knows that you're more than just your credit score. It's expanding access to affordable credit. Unlike other lenders, Upstart considers your income and current employment to find you a smarter rate for your loan. Not everybody has credit built up, especially if you're a younger person, especially if you've just graduated from college or you're starting out on your own, but you might have a good job. You might have decent income, and they can find you a better rate for your loan rather than just using your credit score to figure out what your rate is. With a 5-minute online rate check, you can see your rate up front for loans between $1,000 to $50,000. 5-minute online rate check. Find out what your rate is. You can receive funds as fast as 1 business day after accepting your loan. And you can find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/macro. That's upstart.com/macro. All right, Big T.
These all are pretty bad.
So, all right. So Angel's Landing, there's this guy named Daniel Perez, but he went by the name Lou Castro. And this was in, they moved around a little bit, but most of this took place in Wichita, Kansas. So some people noticed that there was this compound of people who were all living like very extravagantly. Like every car on the property was like 40 grand or more. They were all dressed really nice, but they noticed that like nobody there, or at least Perez didn't have a job, but he had all this money. So he had recruited these people. I don't know exactly how they all got there, but there were, I think, 20 of them or so. And he told them that he was an angel who was like 1,000 years old, and he had to have sex with children to continue surviving.
Jeez.
So he is having sex with these kids that are there. He also told them that he knew when people were going to die. So in 2003, he sat everybody down and he's like, I think her name was Patricia. Patricia was the first one, Patricia Hughes. And he was like, so Patricia's going to die in a week. And he's like, we need to start preparing for this because I know this is going to happen. And then he drowned her in the pool, but it was ruled accidental. She couldn't swim. And something else. She had blunt force trauma to her head, but they ruled it an accidental death. And so
He was right.
Huh?
So he was right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was correct. Then a couple years later, he was never, like, they ruled accidental. Nothing ever came of that. A couple years later, someone else who was in the cult had another suspicious death where he was a mechanic and a car fell on him. His lift didn't work right. And then about a year after that, another woman from the cult drove straight into an oncoming 18-wheeler, died on impact. And somebody, a police officer, noticed that about a year and a half every time he was collecting these $1 million life insurance policies on these people. And that's how they eventually tied like 6 deaths to him. And in 2015, this guy was convicted of first-degree murder, rape, child exploitation, and fraud, and sentenced to 80 years in prison.
I mean, that does get pretty dark.
Yeah.
How do you... I don't understand how you brainwash somebody into, like, basically turning their kids over to you.
Yeah, and the way he got caught, in addition, one of the reasons they got him was he had... the girl of the first woman, Patricia, her daughter was 11 when she died, and he had told her, like, oh, she drowned, whatever, and that girl, like, lied to the cops for him. And then several years later, she told him that she heard, like, a scream, and then he came back from the pool, like, wet and out of breath.
So it actually brings up an interesting question. If somebody could tell you what day that you were going to die, would you want to know?
No.
Nope.
No? No one? Because I was thinking about it, and it's like a maybe for me.
I would want to know, like, maybe a week before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be afraid that I would have like a tragically early death, and then I would just know that.
Yeah, but then you'd at least be able to plan shit. You'd be able to I'm going to get everything out of this next week. Like, you probably wouldn't spend any days, like, hungover, vegging out in bed, watching, like, I don't know, binge watching a show on Netflix if you knew that you were going to die next week, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe you would.
Yeah, no.
Depends if, like, Ted Lasso, I'd probably watch that.
No.
Make myself feel better.
No, like, if it was in... I wouldn't want to know if it was, like, you die when you were 75. That would suck.
Why?
Because I wouldn't stop thinking about that day.
Right, I wouldn't stop thinking about it.
And, like, then am I responsible to tell, like, whoever I marry and, like, my kids? That's a whole load of moral conundrum.
I think... No, the rules would be that you're allowed to know. You don't get to tell anybody.
No.
Yeah, no.
That's a lot. Like, if I can't tell anyone, that's a lot of stress on my shoulders that I can't delegate. Like, I can't talk to other people.
Tell me in a week, with a week's time, and then either one, I'm old, and I'm like, family, come gather around, or I'm young, and then I'm like, yo, we're going to Vegas.
Okay.
Like, end of the world type stuff.
What about you, Avery? Would you want to know?
Absolutely not.
You guys are all P words. I think.
Why would you want to know?
I think I would want to know so I can plan accordingly. Like, you want to know when you're going to be going out of town next. You want to know, like, as much information as possible to make sure that... What's the worst possible thing that happens? If someone would be like, Avery, you will die in the year 2089. What is the worst thing that could happen with you having that knowledge?
Well, it's like, what if it's just like PFT? You're gonna meet Chris Berman next week. It's like, well, I'm dying on Thursday, so that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, then I won't get my hopes up.
Well, then, for example, like, let's say I have a grandson and I'm dying in 2089, and then I'm like, oh, man, I'm not going to see this guy graduate high school. And, like, I don't know. I mean, I should be able to have grandchildren graduate high school by 90, but
Well, they're your grandkids, so maybe not.
hey.
I think that at that point I would get more upset. Like, if I knew when I was going to die, I think it would be, like, sadder to know the things you're missing out on.
Well, yeah, I think then you're just living the rest of your life doing things because you're not going to be able to live longer because you know. Like,
Ignorance is bliss.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, it is. Yeah, I think. What if you could know how you were going to die?
I was actually going to ask that. Would you rather know when or how?
Yeah, if you had gun to your
How?
head,
Yeah.
gun to your head, you have to tell me which one you would prefer to know.
But then what if it sucks?
Well, the answer is now with a gun.
I'd rather know how rather than know when.
I think I'd rather know. I would rather know when, because if I knew how, then let's just say
You just avoid that situation. You
let's
could
say
cheat death.
it was like a car crash.
Mm-hmm.
I would never go into a car ever again because I'd be
Yeah.
like, holy shit, this is the time that I'm going to get into a crash. I'd be terrified while I was in the car. But chances are it's not going to be this time that I'm in. It'll be a time in the future. So I feel like just knowing the date, that way I could just optimize the rest of my life perfectly.
But then you're living for your death rather than, like, living for your life.
Oh, shit. That's heavy.
We're all dying every second, though.
You know, why
You'll
did
never
this
be
get so dark?
You would never be older than you are right, or younger than you are right now.
We just created a doomsday cult of just this question.
Yeah, okay. Good.
Yeah, how's Jackass going, Big T?
Yeah.
So they just loaded their pants with some sort of crustacean and dove into the ocean next to a whale shark. There was also some dude just shit his pants on purpose in a car, and then people started throwing up, and then he takes his pants off and is like scraping the shit out of his underwear. This is unbelievable.
Having Big T narrate Jackass is, I think, maybe funnier than the movie. There's they got a crustacean. They got
All right.
crustacean
All right,
drawers.
I got another cult that's a little more lighthearted. It's called the Cargo Cult. It wasn't really too much of like a real cult in the way we'd say it. Basically, a bunch of uncontacted tribes during World War II were seeing U.S. military planes in action happening during World War II. And sometimes the planes would accidentally drop the wrong cargo that they were supposed to get to soldiers, but they would land amongst these tribes. And then they'd open up the cargo things, and there'd be like food, fresh water, stuff like, that they never saw. So they didn't know that these flying things, they thought they were gods and whatnot. And they started worshiping the U.S. military planes, and basically this lasted until like a couple years, because I kept thinking that these cargo drops, and what they would do is they'd build runways because they thought the planes would land there and give them more cargo, and they're like trying to like go like get all the American soldiers to like give them more stuff and like all these modern goods, and they ended up worshiping, and like some of them created rituals, and there were one recorded example of a human sacrifice for the U.S. military in World War II, like trying to like get them to give them more stuff because they didn't understand what was going on.
They developed like a council of like people that claimed that they could contact the cargoes and said, okay, you need to do this blood ritual
to get
on this day if you need the plane to come back with Kool-Aid or whatever.
Yeah, like one guy peed in the river one day, and then he saw the plane. He was like, "Whoa, I gotta pee in the river to make the plane go."
It's a magical river.
Yeah,
What
It's
kind
like
of
Pavlov's dog.
Yeah, we probably do stuff like that all the time right now.
Yeah.
that we don't even know about. The whole causation correlation thing.
UFOs.
Like I put up a tree, and then Santa Claus comes every year.
Yeah.
It's kind of trippy.
Would he come if we didn't put the tree up?
No,
Oh, damn.
no, you get coal. Although we have been, Jeff Dulo and I have been doing a lot of research on alternate Santa Clauses
Mm-hmm.
and talking about the different traditions that they have in various countries for Santa Claus. There's some real weird shit that goes on out there. Our favorite, I think, is the Yule Lads in Iceland.
Uh-huh.
There's like 14 little dudes They call themselves the Yule Lads, and they're these little gnome type creatures. And every Christmas they come around, and you put your shoes in the window for the Yule Lads, and then they give you treats if you were good. And then I think they give you like rotten potatoes in your shoes if you were bad that year. Just fascinating stuff.
I loved Krampus.
Krampus is sick.
Krampus is pretty.
He's like the evil Santa Claus, right?
I just like the name Krampus.
It is a good name.
Like, I'm gonna tell my kids about Krampus and be like, yeah, Krampus is coming.
Krampus will eat your feet.
Steve-O just shot fireworks out of his asshole.
Perfect.
I'm gonna look up a picture of Krampus real quick because he's got such sick long. Dude, Krampus is metal as fuck.
What's the one that Dwight plays in The Office? He comes in as the. It's similar to Krampus.
And his helper Black Pete.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a real thing. I forget which one it was.
Belschnickel.
Belschnickel, yeah. Krampus is so metal. Look up a picture of Krampus right now. It really does look like an old Iron Maiden cover.
Yeah, Krampus is
Oh
pretty
my God.
out there.
Yeah. All right, so the cargo cult.
Cargo cult, and then there's a reverse cargo cult.
So what is that? What's the
So,
reverse cargo cult?
The reverse cargo cult was in the Cold War. So the cargo cult, basically, they used to make, so the islanders would make fake airplanes and fake runways and whatnot. The reverse cargo cult is the belief that mock airplanes made of manure and straw bale may summon the real airplanes who bring canned beef. But the reverse cargo cult is used by the political elites in countries lagging behind in the developed world, that all the airplanes are made of manure and straw bale, and there's also a shortage of canned beef. So this was used in the Soviet Union, and they're like, America's got all these planes, and they show this front of, like, you know, having all this food and all this abundance, and the political elites in Russia would be like, oh no, that's fake, they're lying, everybody has it as bad as us. Whereas the island cargo cult was like, oh, they can bring us all these supplies and stuff, and, like, you know, if we create fake cargo boxes that they would drop, then more will come.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Russia, they're like, everything's fake.
Hmm.
So it's like a weird juxtaposition of cults.
That is weird. What about, is there such a thing called just a reverse cult in general?
Why don't we make one?
A reverse cult. What would be the tenets of a reverse cult?
Do what you want to do.
Come and go as you please.
Yeah. Just all doors are open. No sex. Now it's starting to get into cult again.
I feel like this podcast is like a reverse cult.
Reverse cult, yeah. Everybody is a leader.
Yeah.
Come and go as you please.
Now we're getting into some communism
Communism.
territory.
Big T.
No,
Big T's signing up for communism.
Well, like communism in the original sense.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Billy's right. Communism works, but the problem with communism is it has to be led by somebody,
Cult
and that leader will
personality.
always have a cult of personality around him.
Yeah, because that's the only way to get a bunch of people to do one thing.
Quick
Mhm.
update. This guy just packed some snow into a snow cone thing, pissed on it, and then ate it.
All right. Can we make a supercut of Big T's Jackass updates?
Yeah.
Yeah, just one right after the other. Madeline, you have a cult?
I do have a cult, and I again talked about this when I tried to get the intern position here, is Mormons, which they don't like being referred to as Mormons, and they also don't like being referred to as a cult. I'm putting it on my back saying Mormons are a cult. And I have been interested in Mormons for a really long time. I also think that a lot of what Mormons have a very big cultural impact in Utah. So, like, as people know, like Mormons are central in like Salt Lake City in Utah, and so there's not only is it a cult that I think, but also have you guys heard about like the Utah mommy blogger influencer lifestyle?
Yeah.
A little bit about it.
So I was talking about this because I was talking to my friends about how I was talking about Mormons on today's episode, and talking about the mommy blogger culture that envelops Utah, and people were like, yeah, it's because Mormons don't drink or smoke or do drugs or anything like that. So all of these women in Utah are just clear-skinned, bright blonde, like no
Like
They look great.
they look like
a
Zach
lot of-
Wilson.
Yeah, they do.
A lot of those on TikTok right now. Big Mormon mom
yeah, and they
TikTok community right
they
now.
always move to Hawaii for whatever reason.
Huge Mormon missionaries in Hawaii.
Yeah. So I find that really interesting, and they'll always, and also I'm a girl, so it comes up on my pages more often. But
Are you allowed to take medication
Yes.
if you're a Mormon?
Yeah.
So where's the line drawn between what you're allowed to take and what you're not?
So I have a list of what they can and
Let's
can't
go.
do. So this was written by a Mormon, so I assume it to be as accurate as possible. And he's like an apologetic, so he's like, oh, like, yeah, I do this because the Lord tells me to do this. And so it's like no sex before marriage, which is an obvious one. So no sex before marriage, no alcohol or drugs, because we don't want the effects of alcohol or drugs to influence us to make poor decisions. What's the fun in that?
Mm-hmm.
No dishonesty, so they think that they should always tell the truth.
So you can't lie. So if you ask a Mormon person, is Mormonism a cult? They have to tell you whether or not it is.
Yeah, but they don't. I mean, it's like it's the cult mentality. They don't think they're in a cult.
Okay.
And also it is very, extremely religiously based. I mean, BYU, all of that. Donate 10% or more of your income to charity and the building up of the kingdom of God. So they have to donate 10%. 10% is like the bare minimum. Most do like 30% of their income goes to the church. So the church, it's obviously a tax exempt organization because it's a religion. The Mormon church is worth billions of dollars.
So how do people make money? Like I would expect Mormons to be a bunch of broke boys if they have to first of all pay taxes.
I also feel like
secondly pay tax to the church.
No, they're all actually super successful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they have to be like really, really probably because they don't drink.
No, they literally like working is their drug.
yeah,
I've met a
They
bunch
don't-
of Mormons who
they have
are
nothing
like,
else to do.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that would be fun. I think that part of the joy in life is feeling like shit for at least 2 mornings a week when your body's recovering from something that you shouldn't have done. Then the rest of it becomes that much sweeter.
yeah, it says on here, because of the church's almost complete lay ministry, the tithes, so the 10%, are only spent for good instead of lining the pockets of a professional pastor. So basically his justification, it's not going to the pastor, it's going to the church, but then the church, like the leaders of the church have all of this money that they're just storing. So it's not like just because it's not going to the pastors doesn't mean it's not being used for good things. Do not view pornography because they believe it's demeaning to women, and thou shalt not covet in the commandments. And then they're not a big fan of gay people. So this man says, we are taught that marriage is ordained between a man and a woman. I am getting on the record, denounce that. And we have great love and respect for, and that's the thing, that it's like cognitive dissonance, where the guy says here, we love gay people and we love lesbians, and there are many gay people of the church, but we just don't accept them and their views. So it's like, where's the line there? So that's one of my, they also were extremely racist. They didn't let black people into the leadership of the church until the 1970s, which is a whole nother thing. And, so they're against.
That's so late. Like the 19.
So late.
When you think about everything else that was happening in America, that is so late for an organization to do that.
Yeah. So then also, 1970s is when black people started being allowed to be leaders of the church. So the Mormon church is made up of a lot of white people and, oddly enough, a lot of like Samoan people.
Yeah, it's
missionaries.
from the missions.
Yeah.
That's why BYU.
So
has
like
so many
I saw
recruits.
Book of Mormon on Broadway, and that was one of the funniest things I've ever.
I've also heard that the teachings of the Mormon Church, when it comes to like how they traditionally taught things, they might have changed it recently, but for a long time, they would indicate people with darker skin would be descendants of, I forget who in the Bible. Was it Abel or Cain?
Cain.
Probably Cain. Yeah, descendants of Cain.
They weren't pure.
Yeah, they weren't pure, and so that was the justification for keeping them out of not only leadership positions but also the church.
There's a lot
as
of
a whole for a while.
There's a lot of justifications in the Mormon church. Dedicate Sundays to the Lord, which is pretty normal in like a Christian base.
I just remember I had a
religion.
bunch of friends growing up that weren't allowed to play sports.
Hang out on Sundays.
Yeah.
Can
on
we
Sundays.
take a poll? Because I don't know that I think Mormons are a cult. I think they just have they're just a religion that's really dumb.
Well, okay, good point. So who is like the head Mormon?
I have a John Smith.
Joseph Smith.
Joseph Smith? Yeah.
Mhm.
I have
And Brigham Young.
Yeah. I have a belief that if space is involved in your religious beliefs, it's cult.
That
Okay,
is
well,
they do have some crazy ideas.
They do.
in
They
that.
space
That's not a bad line of delineation. If we're talking about outer space, something that they had, people thought that outer space was like, I don't know, God's toilet until 70 years ago. Everyone was like, oh, see, when that moon disappears, it's because there's a giant dragon that eats it once a month and it goes away. No one knew what the fuck space was until the last couple hundred years. So yeah, I think that any religion that definitively talks about space as part of their belief system, probably a cult.
I saw this Mormon couple on I think they were on YouTube, and they were talking about how they were discussing the things that are said in Book of Mormon and whether they're true or not. And there's a line in one of the songs of Book of Mormon that says like, I believe when I die, God gives me my own planet or something. And they were like, well, so yeah, like we do think that, but that's not like the important part. And then they were like, yeah, like we do believe that you get a certain type of planet based on how you act on Earth, that, but like that's not the important part though. And they were,
what could possibly be more important than
they just like
inheriting your own private planet?
Yeah, they weren't denying most of the things.
I mean, the thing is, we're chirping it right now, but hypothetically, we might end up on a shitty planet and be like, "Wow, we were such idiots."
Oh yeah, for sure. Maybe like who knows? They might be correct in all this.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Kind of not technically space, but they have a lot of the reason that people leave is I'm big on ex-Mormon YouTube. Like I love watching ex-Mormons tell their stories, and they have different delineations of kingdoms of heaven. So you have to be like the best Mormon possible to get into the highest kingdom of heaven. So basically, it's like you're never good enough, or you're not going to get into the highest part of heaven, or look. Your family members, if they're gay or if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're not going to get into the same kingdom of heaven that you are, and then you guys are going to be separated for the rest of eternity. So I consider that more of a scare tactic, in my opinion. Again, I am not an expert, but I think that is a scare tactic to be like, well, there's always more that you could do, and there's always more you could dedicate to the church, and then the pastors of the church, or like the men in charge of the church, they have this thing where they're either speaking as a prophet or speaking as a human. So a lot of the times when leaders in the Mormon church say something that's taken offensively or taken wrong, or not a great belief to follow, they'll say, well, I was speaking as a man, not as a prophet. So they can kind of they can delegate all of their mistakes from them speaking through God and them just being like a human being, which again makes you think, well, you're just saying that.
Yeah. So, all right, but is there one person who is the head of the church right now? Because we're talking about how to tell if something is a cult or not. I'm trying to play cult or not with Mormonism.
I think
also,
they do have like a leader.
They got a leader?
Yeah, hold on.
I believe
I'm
so.
mostly just jealous that, like, I've known a bunch of Mormons throughout my life.
There's a president.
Like, no one's ever tried to convert me. Like, what the fuck?
Because you're not in a third world country.
Yeah, but what? I don't get a chance at a
like
planet.
a Mormon temple near my house.
They don't think I'm planet worthy. They don't think that like I would want my own planet.
Oh, you know who else actually actively? There's another, the Hutterites. Hutterites? Oh, have you heard about this?
No.
Oh, they're out in North Dakota, and they're like, sort of like the Amish, but they can like wear regular clothes.
Mennonites? Mennonites.
No, Hutterites.
Mennonites are the
Mennonites
Amish
are different. Yeah.
No, it's Hutterites. Yep. Yeah, and they speak with German accents, and they've been here since 1700s. They're just German immigrants, but because they have a very small genetic pool.
Mm-hmm.
Their
Are
stories.
they inbred?
Well, like the Amish, they're very small genetic pool, so they have a lot of diseases because of lack of genetic diversity.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll go to bars and recruit like dudes to like not even like to have have sex with their women.
It's like the Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, they like recruit dudes from bars,
Mm-hmm.
like in the Dakotas. I'm not sure. This like it's on like message forums, and it's ridiculous. Like they actually actively recruit like drunk dudes.
Mm-hmm. It's not unsimilar from the Children of God. You know about the Children of God?
No.
That's another cult. That's probably
Yeah.
like worth an entire episode of this podcast.
That's a good one.
It's the one that I think Rose McGowan grew up in. Joaquin Phoenix also
Yeah.
grew up in the
There's a
Children
bunch
of God.
celebrities that grew up in it.
There's a ton. It's very sexual. It's like called religious prostitution. But what they would do is they would try to find as many like attractive women that they could brainwash, and then they'd send them out to bars and put them out like into towns and call them flirty fishers, and their job was to just bring dudes back, fuck them, and then eventually convert them into being part of the cult too, knowing that guys are like, we're very easy to brainwash. If you just send like an 11 up to us and they're like, hey, me and all my extremely hot girlfriends want to have sex with you for 8 hours, guys will be like, yeah, I'll believe, like, whatever you need me, my own planet, sure, whatever, yes, let's do it. And so they really optimize that. We should do an entire episode on the Children of God, because that's some crazy shit to get into.
Yeah, but the guys who are recruiting the guys in bars are just like elders of the church or whatever. They just walk up and like, yo, do you want to come back to the farm? It's like,
Want to
what?
hang?
I'm sorry, I just have to give one more Jackass update. It appears we're nearing the conclusion of the film, and this guy just put a little toy race car in a condom and lubed it up and shoved it
Stuck
up his ass. And then this is the part I wish I had sound for. They go to the doctor, and the doctor is currently on the phone with this guy, and they have subtitles. It says they were at a party yesterday, and they were all having sex with each other and stuff like that. It's a little toy car, and they're looking at the X-ray of it. So.
Yeah. I remember watching that for the first time when I was like 11.
Fantastic movie. Thank you for the recap, Big T. I feel like I just watched it all over again.
Yeah, no problem.
Your recap was just as funny as watching the actual film itself.
How many of these are there?
3 or 4?
4?
Okay.
The one that was 3 was 3D.
Love that.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Avery, you got anything else that you want to add here?
Yeah, I saw the Church of God with signs following. Hilarious. They just hold poisonous snakes in the air. I don't know why. It just reminded me of that scene in The Campaign where Will Ferrell gets bit by the snake.
It's a Pentecostal thing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the snake, like the power of God will prevent the snake from biting me.
Yeah, which is just insane. But I think if you're willing to hold a snake, you're a crazy person.
Well, what they do is the same thing with the alligators. They get them really cold.
Yeah, we I had a friend growing up that was a Pentecostal, and she would start speaking in tongues sometimes. Really, really weird stuff. But the church that she went to, they handled snakes occasionally. It's like, I got a rattlesnake, and if this thing bites me, first of all, it's not going to bite me because God will protect me. Secondly, if it does, God will stop the venom from affecting me. And there's like these news stories that go viral probably like once a year when a pastor dies from getting bitten by a snake, and he's like, God will protect me from dying, and then he dies. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was going to say, I'm sure you have something to add to this, because I know that you were like around the Pentecostal church.
No.
Weren't you?
No.
Okay.
Southern Independent Baptist.
But it wasn't that part.
No.
Okay, maybe
had nothing to do with the Pentecostal
Okay,
church.
maybe I'm
But
misremembering.
my mom's cousin's husband was a preacher, and he and my mom's uncle were really interested in like the snake handling stuff. And they went to a church, I think it was called La Follette, Tennessee, like up near North Carolina. And they went, and they said the pastor was like probably my age, like 24, 25, super young, and was like super nice, greeting everybody at the door. Like, and they knew it was a very small church, so like they knew they didn't go there, and like, hey, how are you? Like, very nice to see you. And he said went through a pretty normal church service, and then at the end they just bring out these crates that were like, this big, and they just pull out clumps of snakes, and they just
Snake
held
time.
them. Yeah, it was
They're
just
probably garter snakes.
the end. It was just time to hold the snakes.
Garter snakes, when they mate, they all get in these big jumble bunches, and they're non-venomous, and like they're a very safe snake to mess around with.
Okay, so
I don't even care what kind of snake it is. You got to be a fucking psycho to pick up a snake.
What?
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
No, garter snakes are like that. Those are like what your like dad tells you can catch as a little kid.
that's what Billy's dad
yeah.
told him he could catch.
Like
as a
the
little
garter
kid. Yeah.
snake, like yeah, fuck around with that thing. Like
No,
it's fine.
absolutely not. No.
You've never once wanted to pick up a snake?
No.
What
You're
about
a
a
city
boa?
kid. Avery's such a city kid.
No, I'm from Jersey. We have gardener snakes. They're sick. Like they're just like no. Absolutely not. Not snakes, spiders, no. Just
Snakes
no.
feel cool though in your hand. They're like one big long muscle.
Holding the end, like, well, it's honestly baller when like you're like hiking or something, and you're out, and like someone sees a snake and they start screaming, and then you're like, oh, that's a garter snake.
Well, actually,
You can
And
do
then
that
you-
even if you
and
don't
then
know
you-
it's a garter snake. You can just be like, nah, that's not a big deal.
it's
And just-
it's a garter snake. Then you go pick it up, and then they're like, wow, you're so
oddly enough, I don't know the name of
So
them. What are the
baller.
What are the giant snakes that like
Boas?
they bring? Yeah, boas are the ones that you can hold
Pythons,
and they
yeah.
they won't bite you though, right?
Well, if
They'll
they're
just wrap themselves
if they're
around you.
not hungry,
Yeah, like oddly enough, I think that's kind of cool to hold, like as like a group.
like a ball python.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a picture holding one.
So you have held snakes.
Yes, I think the smaller ones are more scary to hold,
Yeah, because they could be venomous.
and they're fast.
coral snakes.
Coral snakes are the most
Billy,
venomous.
can you
yeah.
tell me what the difference is, quick, between a coral snake and a corn snake?
One's actually fully aquatic and highly venomous. A
Uh-huh.
corn snake is not venomous. What's the
Yeah,
red?
this is the only thing I remember about snakes.
Yeah, no, it's like red and black.
Tune in next
Yeah.
week on Macrodosing, and we're going to tell you how to not get killed by a coral snake or how to safely pick up a corn snake. The only way you're going to find out this information is by tuning into next week's podcast, and it could save your life. Otherwise, I will tell you the time and means that you are going to die, and it's going to be a week and a day from now via a coral snake bite. So, but you can stop it. That's the good news. Just listen to next week's podcast. That's our riddle of the week.
Also, don't join any cults. If space is involved, a very charismatic person, I think those are the two indicators.
Yep, that's good. Good point.
If
Anyone
you're in a
else?
cult, hit us up. Let us know what's going on.
Yeah, or if you're a former cult member too.
Sahar, the intern who talked to water, she was in a multi-level marketing company like last year and got sucked into that.
Huh.
Wait, what's the name of it?
Oh, it's like, I don't know, but it was all about like being a future CEO, like
Okay.
and trying to make money.
We're also going to touch upon the Manson cult at another time because that's a story in itself.
Mm-hmm. So we've got Arian will be back next week. Coley will be back next week. I might not be around next week. We're going to try to figure that out. It is Grit Week, so that might be tough. It might be tricky to figure out all the timing that goes into that, but there will be a podcast next week. So love you guys, and I will see you next week.
Should we do underwear in honor of Arian?
It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, nobody. Yeah. Do you want to know?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
No. Do you want to tell me?
They're the orange
I
ones.
don't.
How did we start that?
Because they were talking. Big T and Arian were talking about what a fanatic he was.
I was wearing all UT shit. He said, "What? Do you have Tennessee underwear on?" And I was like, they might be orange." And I pulled it up, and it was orange.
That's awesome.
All right. Love you guys. See you next week.